Okay. Jennifer, I have you down as Josh.
Yeah, I don't. I
It's
originally
okay.
came on as Jennifer and then it kicked me off and then signed me back on as my son. So I think,
You want us to change that? I don't know if we can.
no, I think I need a this is under his login and then I tried to do it, but then I would have to log in and out again and I didn't know if it was worth it.
I'm going to try something here. Okay.
Okay.
I got it.
You got it?
You
Yep.
can change me?
There you go.
Oh. All right. Well, see.
All right. There it is. And now we can introduce you as Jennifer Matsumoto from our Irvine office. Hey, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you.
Great, great. Jennifer, thank you so much for doing this. Seriously, you are one very, very busy lady. You have a lot of business. You have a lot of personal business interests that you do. You're an investor type, and you're the mom of three young kids, right?
Yep. 3.
Do you, I was thinking about this talk that we were going to do today, and is really fascinating because I'm 99% sure when we met and you first started with us, you didn't have any kids, right?
No, I hadn't had any of them yet.
So we've been through 3 births, and you were married though.
I was married, yes.
You were married.
I'm
yes.
married.
And married, yes. Got it. Exactly. Good job. So Jennifer, you've been in the business. Give me a little bit of Reader's Digest. I don't want to misspeak.
Yeah, so I've been in the business since 2007. Then I came over with you in 2012.
Right.
Had the 3 kids and have just been.
And
I also invest, like you said. I do look for investment real estate too.
Right.
So.
And do really well with that. Good. Excellent. So kind of what I wanted to talk about, when you first started you got in the business, you had a couple of investments when you came to the company, I think. You had and that was in 2007, and they were a little bit underwater at the time, I think.
Yeah, I had 4 properties before I came to you, and one of them was underwater, definitely, and then the other ones were kind of just break even.
Okay, good. And you held on to those though through that whole time, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Got it. You still own those properties?
Still own them. Mm-hmm.
Good for you. Good for you. And at the time, I remember the conversation, and this is not you as a real estate agent producing, but you as an investor type, and all of us kind of go through this from time to time. We had many conversations. You were break even on a couple of them. You were underwater in another one. And the conversation, what do I do? Do I sell? Do I hold? What do I do? And the properties, went from 07 to 12, they dropped a decent amount. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I remember the conversations, but kudos to you, because wherever they were from 7 to 12, you held on. You did whatever you needed to do. You kept them rented and fixed and repaired. And I would suspect from 12 to today, they went up in value a little bit.
Yeah, they're all doing really well.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, I remember thinking, yeah, exactly. Going through the conversation with you, trying to figure out, should I keep it? What should I do? Right. But yeah, it was, I'm happy that we kept it.
Yeah, no, it was very, very, very smart. Probably worth conservatively hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah.
Each property would be worth $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 probably today more, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So good job, smart girl. And that's the point that we have to remind our investor types and remind ourselves that however bad it is today, generally speaking, over time, real estate is cyclical, just like our business production is cyclical, and it comes back. And we have to look at it multiple different ways. So, congratulations. That's a big win.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job. So back in 12, a lot of the business that you did came from expireds for sale by owners. You were following, Mike Ferry at the time, I think, and just pounding out, grinding out, role play practice, etc. that's where most of your business came from at the time, correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah,
Right.
majority of my business was expireds.
But along the way, you were putting those leads or those opportunities going into a database, some kind of a, right. So tell us a little bit about that. What were you doing there?
So in the beginning, when I came to you, I didn't really have, I mean, I was putting them in, but when I say that, I mean into a spreadsheet. And so like there wasn't really much follow up, or it was harder for me to follow up because I was just kind of looking through the spreadsheet and then making notes on this big Excel spreadsheet. So
Right.
it just wasn't good. And then I started talking to other agents in the office and kind of figuring out what other agents did and talking to you about what I should be doing. And then I set up Top Producer, and I've just been now kind of funneling everybody that I talk to into Top Producer. And it's just helped me so much with just lead follow up and all of that.
Right. So about how many people in your database now?
Right now I have like 450.
450.
Mhm.
And you also took on, because the marketing approach in the Irvine area is to take on a little bit of quote unquote farming type of stuff. But you did not in Irvine, more in Tustin, correct?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I farm mostly, majority of my farm stuff is in Tustin.
Right. And we looked at a couple of different farms in a couple of different ways because we were analyzing different things to do. And I remember the conversation. It was you were going to invest a decent amount of money over time, but it wasn't a commitment for 6 months. You were going to commit to that, I think, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what you and I talked about. And then I talked to other people that had successfully farmed, and they said that you have to kind of just commit, and you can't just, I had started other places, but I really didn't do it consistently.
Right.
And so that's
right.
what everyone said is, if you're going to do this, you really just need to do this and you need to commit to it. And so I did. But.
Right. So it's kind of like some of the things that you do, you did expireds and for sale by owners and some door knocking and phone canvassing and built your database of 300 to 400 people and worked that database, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And then you put together a couple of areas that you like and did some quote unquote farming in those areas, working on that, pulling some business out of there. And you're an investor. I mean, you've got multiple streams of income coming in. I mean, where did you come up with that idea? Where is that just innate in you?
I think a lot of it is luck, right? Like, I mean, I've always wanted to do investing. That was always kind of something that interested me. And from early on, when I was younger, I talked to other investors and they had been real estate agents. And so that's kind of the path that I said, okay, I'll do that path. So I knew that whatever money that I was going to take to make from real estate, I was going to then put it into saving for investing. So that was always kind of my goal. Okay. And then as far as like within the real estate side, the real estate business, it was, I was just having my kids and, being torn between being at home with the kids and then being up early prospecting and doing all of those things. And, I started with the Mike Ferry system. So it was and even prior businesses that I was involved in was always about prospecting. So that part of it didn't bother me. But I felt like if I could do the active prospecting now, but then also get a little bit of the passive marketing, then that would be the best of both worlds, because I could not only work hard for the ones that I want now, but then also start accumulating things from people knowing who I am through the farm.
Right, right. So it's kind of a process that you put this whole thing together for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And actually that's what all great over time add some different elements to it. In your case, it's an investing arm. And I'll stop for a second here. It's fascinating. Most agents I meet think in terms of buying things and going somewhere with the extra money. Jennifer is always gets a couple dollars extra. In fact, sometimes she doesn't even have the couple dollars, and the deal, I've personally never met somebody in our business who looks at every transaction as, can I buy this and do something with it, is kind of where your first thought is. Where most of us think about getting the listing, right? That's not your first thought. Your first thought is, how can I figure out how to buy this, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, that's very unique and very interesting, which will also help you be the millionaire, to compound on the millions that you probably already have squirreled away. You're very quiet about this, but very mighty, very mighty. So good for you. And then build your business quietly with the extra things that are going on. So talk about that. Talk more about what that next decision was. Okay, I'm making some money. I put some dollars away. I now can do something else, not different, but else in what I'm doing. So talk about that thought process a little bit.
I mean, I think a lot of it is what interests me, and what really gets me motivated is the passive income, right? Not only I love the competitiveness of the real estate just in general, and the opportunities that it provides, but I also really like the passive income that you can get from it. So being able to know that I'm setting aside something for my kids in the future, that also really motivates me, is knowing that, hey, I'm building a real estate portfolio for them so that they could then have more opportunities later. Everyone always talks about, you don't really know where this industry, real estate, is going to be. Plus, you don't know what, for our kids' generation, what their work is going to be like, and opportunities with robotics and all of that kind of stuff. So I just feel like having this extra portfolio for them in the future is something that is pretty cool to be able to pass down later on.
That's great. That's the investment side. So and the extra business, that's the conversation. We talk about this all the time. Build the real estate engine that will throw off the money, and then buy some real estate along the way. Now, you actually have structured two prospecting streams. One, of course, is the expireds and for sale by owners, and you're as good as anybody else on the streets in terms of getting that business and going after it, working your past client and sphere. And then the third one now, of course, is the farming that you're doing. So talk about that. How did you choose the area that you're working? Was it a fluke? Did you happen to just get a listing in the area and like it? What went on there?
Okay, so the farm that I do the most business in is in Tustin, and I had already been, from previous like expireds or door knocking just in the area. I picked up a few listings in there. So as I started to feel like I was getting momentum and noticing that there wasn't any other agents, or not a lot of other dominant agents in the community, then I started slowly. So like that community is in quarters. It's about 936 homes. So I started for the first year just testing it by doing a quarter of that. And then I would mail them every 2 weeks and door knock them. And then also I got a list of the phone numbers and I would call too. And so when I started then picking up more listings there, then, and I was trying not to spend too much money. So I was just mailing to that quarter, but I would door knock everywhere in that whole community. And so I started getting more listings. And then the next year I expanded to the full community. And then I started getting even more listings. It's nice because that community is also very, they do a lot of community events. So I then started sponsoring like garage sales, or they have a events planner who plans all the events for me and then asks if I want to sponsor it. So then all I have to do is give them a little bit of money and then show up at the event. And was
that your tank? Didn't you do a tank or something the other day?
So yeah, exactly. They called me and they were like, we're going to do a 4th of July parade, which they do every year. And they said, do you want to sponsor one of the floats? And I said, yeah, for sure. They asked if I wanted to go, but I wasn't able to go to the event. But he was like, send me your fly or your banner and we'll put it on the tank and we'll send you pictures. And so it was like a great opportunity. I got even just from this weekend's tank, I probably had at least 5 people from the community message me saying, "Hey, that tank was awesome," and everyone was talking about it, so it was nice.
That's great. Fantastic. Well, that's it. You just want to be the celebrity in the area,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Got it. There's a commitment though going into this. I mean, you had a plan and you were committed to this. It wasn't a 90-day deal. Okay, I'll put a couple $100 into this for 90 days and see what happens, right? That
Yeah.
wasn't the plan.
No, I knew I would have to farm for at least 2 to 3 years to be able to get a good return from it.
Right, right. 2 to 3 years. So you did the budget for 2 to 3 years, not a month or two.
Correct. And then as I got more business from it in the first and second year, then I expanded further out based on the amount of business that I was getting from it and financially what made sense.
Right. So I just want to remind everyone, because they're looking at, well, I could spend a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 and I could get this business. It doesn't work that way. Your business base came from the work that you did getting expireds for sale by owners and building your database.
Yeah.
That generated the income, which allowed you then to do the next step, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Right.
So while I was waiting for the farm to build up, then I was doing a lot of expireds. And when the expired started kind of drying up at that time, then I shifted over to a lot of like absentee owners. And still, again, at that time, I was heavily door knocking and still doing a lot of calling. So so that's exactly what I mean is I was doing a lot of the active prospecting while I was waiting for the passive stuff to catch up. And now I've been doing it for enough years where I have all of the passive calls coming in from people knowing, but then also I could call more. And
we have that conversation all the time, don't we?
Yeah.
but to your credit, I mean, you get a lot done, and you still have 3 children who are at home during this whole pandemic thing.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're at school or something. You have a wonderful, supportive husband, but it's still, I mean, at some point, it's still you, mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, got it. So how did the pandemic affect you?
Well, it was a shift because I always went in the office. So it was a shift of being able to work from home and being able to shut the door and keep the kids out without them knocking on the door. And then in the beginning, it was a little bit slower. A lot of people didn't know what was going to happen and how it was going to affect them. But I've been just kind of trying to call, and I've kept up my marketing. So I figured there's going to be a lot of agents that aren't able to continue to market right now. So I didn't slow down on the marketing.
Got it.
And then, yeah, like even during this time, I've been getting a lot of calls. I still follow up with the people that I know are going to be doing something. And so a lot of the people have been just coming on now. People that had intentions of coming on, but were kind of waiting. Now they're all coming on.
Yeah, you've been busy almost from the 15th of March on.
Yeah.
And actually kind of feels like you're getting busier right now, right?
Right now is probably the busiest this month, and end of last month has been the busiest I've been as far as transactions in escrow in probably my entire career.
Right. Yeah. But that you don't see that getting ready to slow down on you either.
No, I have a few, I have other ones that are calling and other ones that are in the pipeline to come on the market. They just haven't come on yet.
Right. You had a full-time assistant there for a while, but then when the quarantine hit, it was like, how do I keep this thing going? So you have some help right now. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I use Holly for all my marketing and all my social media stuff. And then, I had my assistant. I still I don't have anything it's easier when we're both in the office for me to delegate and keep both of us on track to keep her having enough business to do. But right now, since I'm pretty much all working from home or going on appointments, I don't have enough to keep her busy full time. So her and I kind of agreed is if I have anything that I need her to do, then she'll do it on an hourly basis for me. And then I shifted all of my marketing, which my assistant used to do, to having Holly do it for me. And then kind of bits and pieces I'll do myself. So it's
Right.
picking up a little bit of the slack. I would like to eventually get back to having an assistant, but a lot of it was just the driving and the like putting on a lockbox and putting up a sign and things like that. And now that COVID happened, I think sellers are a little bit more um, understanding of me not having to be at every appointment, where I could just put a lockbox on, whoever vendor needs to go goes without me being there. And so that's kind of been helpful too.
Great. Got it. Perfect. So, okay, we're post-COVID. You're heating up business-wise. I mean, what are you going to do to keep fanning the flames and continue this going? What's the next, let's say, what's this next quarter look like for you?
Going back to my COI and hitting the phones harder with my COI and following up with those. Like I said, I've been following up with the ones that I know are going to do something, but I need to be better about calling into my COI and touching everybody that I don't know if they're going to do something.
Right.
So doing that more, doing absentee owners again, stronger, um, continuing the farming. But I
Got
think
it.
those are my three biggest sources right now. And so
Okay.
just kind of continuing that.
All right. Very cool. Excellent. Questions for Jennifer, things that you want to ask her, please.
Jennifer, can you elaborate a little bit about the process from the moment you get your lead till you actually convert it into an actual deal? I've seen that you actually, I find myself doing a lot of the stuff and a lot of the struggles right now that you did when you first started, but you eventually did a transition of going into the system where you kept everything organized.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me your process to not converting any deals and how did you go about organizing yourself on the system?
Yeah. Okay. So in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book,
Mm-hmm.
there is a system which is called the 8x8. So what it is essentially it's saying that from the time that you touch or you meet somebody, it's going to take 8 touches for them to kind of know you and be comfortable with you. And so from the time that I meet somebody, I put them into what's called the 8x8, which is every week I send them something. So I have pre-made postcards. Some of them it's just generic, right? It might just say on one side of the postcard, my logo with some generic like words, right? And then on the other side, it might just be a Zillow review. And then the next one might be all of my list of services. And then again, on the other side is just generic. So it's pre-printed postcards that I already have made so that when week 1 comes, anybody that I meet, I send them a card, a note, a handwritten note. And I just say, hi, it was really nice to meet you. If you ever need anything, I'm here to be a real estate resource, things like that. And then, or whatever we talked about. And then the next week, it's in a filing cabinet. So what I do is I have a paper that goes from 1 week to the next. So basically on the first week, I send a note. The second week, I send out one of those postcards. The third week, I send out a notepad. The fourth week, I send them, like I'll look in their area and send them all of the most recent sales activity in their area. So it might just be a little handwritten note that just says, hey, as I mentioned, I want to keep you up to date with sales activity in the area. Of course, if you need anything, let me know. If you have any questions, give me a call. And then I send that to them. The next week, it will be, again, just a generic notepad, postcard. The next week, it's probably another generic postcard. And then the last week, it's another call. And so actually, sorry, one of those weeks in between there is another call. So in the 8 weeks, I call them in the very beginning when we talked, sometime in the middle, and then the very last time. And if at the very last time, they're still sounding like they're interested or they're wanting to stay in touch or that they have any intentions of selling, then I'll put them into my top producer as a COI. And then from there, they'll get called every 2 months, mailed every month, and then an email blast when I remember to send a group email blast. But so that's kind of the system that I use. And then of course, if there's any motivation or something that they're going to do sooner, then I will like I really heavily follow up with those people.
Do you
Got
have,
it. Perfect. Go ahead, Albert, sorry.
do you have your numbers from that point before you put them into your system? I mean, through that 8-step process?
What do you mean? Like how many people do I do?
Yeah, that what's the percentage of those people actually convert into a deal where you transfer them, or not so much to a deal, but you transfer them to your database where you can continue to follow up.
No, I don't have my numbers for that. So like,
I'm just trying to understand
in a normal week, not including right now during COVID,
Mhm.
I would usually put about 3 to 4 people like would go through into the 8x8, and then maybe 2 would go into the top producer.
Okay.
And then, but if I look at my annual business,
Mm-hmm.
probably at least a third of my business comes from somebody that I had added in a longer term business. So it wasn't necessarily that I called them and they said, yes, we want to sell right away, but it was somebody like that that went into my COI, and then 6 months to a year later, they did something with me.
And once again,
So Albert, hold on one second, okay? Sorry, buddy. This is about touching people and following up.
Yeah.
The system might be different for you than it is for Jennifer, than it is for somebody else. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm sure Jennifer will talk to you offline. But I just need to make sure that we move this along a little bit. Okay, buddy?
no, you're good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Jennifer, just awesome stuff. I mean, really good. But at the end of the day, you follow up and talk to people, right?
Yeah. So I'm like, whenever I know somebody's going to do something, I'm calling them a lot. So it's whether it's just an update on the market or update on another listing down the house, or that I have a buyer that's looking in their area. Like I'm sending out Stephen Thomas reports, or I'm calling them a lot to let them know that I'm active and that I want to be in front of them.
Got it. Perfect. Excellent. Good job. Okay. Other questions for Jennifer, please.
Yeah, Jennifer, I have a question for you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, thank you for sharing those tips with us. You just explained what you did with those COI, 8 times, how you touch them. Now, can you explain how you do the farming?
Yeah. So when I first started, I looked into it. So like I said, I started in an area that I already kind of knew and that I already had sold a few homes in there. But then further than that, I asked the title company, can you let me know if there's any dominant agent and what the turnover is in there? The turnover in there, somebody else will tell you, not me, because I don't know the numbers, what the numbers should be as far as picking a farm. Usually I think your title company can tell you like what the good turnover rate should be and things like that. But whatever those numbers were, this farm kind of fit within a little bit of it. I don't think the turnover was as high as it should have been, but it was still decent. And then once I picked my farm, I tried to pick or a farm that there wasn't anybody that did a lot of business. There was another agent in there that was kind of doing a good number of transactions, but he was also a little bit older, and I had heard that he was going to be retiring soon. So I also figured that he's different than I am as far as just as an agent. So it would still be okay for me to farm in there because my clientele may not be the same as his clientele. And so once I established the farm, then I did it every 2 weeks. So in the very, very beginning, I did a really big piece that was, I don't know the exact dimensions, but it was like a 15 by 11 piece of like big advertising thing. And basically it was a lot of just confirmation of who I am and some of the transactions that I've done, or that other agents in my office, you could use that too. And then reviews too. So I did that for the first couple weeks, mainly just to stand out. So it's kind of like, what is this big, huge marketing piece? Who is this person, right? And then after I did that for a couple weeks, now I just do regular oversized postcards. And on my postcards, it will just be like a just listed or just sold or in escrow or a list of my services or reviews, things like that. And so every 2 weeks I send out something to my farm. And then at the end of the year, I usually do like a wrap up or like all of the transactions that I've done in the community and thank you for your support. And of course, I'm here to help, that type of stuff. And then in the beginning of the following year, I'll do like a market update of what the expectations of the market are going to be for that year. And a lot
Jennifer, let me ask you a question here. I'm sure this is going through people's minds, but do you have a guesstimate of your what you spend on this project a year?
So I am about $2,000 a month now.
Okay.
So I had originally only spent a few $100s when I first started the farm, but now I've gotten, so my direct farm that I get maybe like 7 to 10 deals a year out of is Tustin Meadows. And then there's surrounding communities around those. So I've now expanded into those communities. And I've only done that for about a year and a half. So I haven't gotten a lot of traction yet on those surrounding communities, but I'm still making enough from the main one to make it worth it. So not only do I farm the actual community and have somebody drop off, well, before this, I was actually having somebody drop off all the flyers. Now I'm having it mailed through EDDM. And then I also make sure to hit the absentee owners in those farms too.
Jennifer?
So one second. So you've been doing at the 24,000 level for 2-3 years?
Yeah, probably about
Okay,
2 years.
and probably 3-4 years at maybe 1,000, 1,500 a month?
Correct.
Yeah, you got 120,000 invested in this, right?
Over the top term.
Yeah, right. I want to get the picture out, all right? It didn't happen today.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't 24,000 and I get the business.
Mm-hmm.
This is a long-term investment project.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody got that? Okay, I'll bet you, I may even be, I may be low at 100,000. It could be 125 to 140,000 by the time you really look at it with all the stuff that you're doing. And that's fine because you get the return now on it. That's okay.
Yeah.
But I just want everybody to kind of get that picture. Not everybody can do that. And you didn't start there. You started by building your business one deal at a time. And it's really important point. Okay? Got it.
Jennifer.
Okay. Go ahead, Michael.
This is Michael Ojeda. How you doing?
Hi.
Hi, I just questioned, and you said you've been really busy in the last a couple of months. What would say the percentage of business you got it from for sale by owners and expires in the last couple of months?
None. In the last couple of years, I have not been calling expireds.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Got it. Okay, good question. Other questions for Jennifer? Michael.
I have one. This is Michael Yu, another Michael. Hope you're doing well today. Thank you for sharing. And question is for the absentee owner and for rent by owner, say they're interested, what's your follow-up sequence for those people? You know, they don't live there. You do not know their physical address. You cannot mail them stuff, right? So how do you follow up? Do you call them every week or what's the process like?
Okay, so if I'm calling an absentee owner, then my system does show me where they live. So if I get in touch with them, and I'm talking to them and they say that that they're interested, then I always say, well, let me mail you my card and let me mail you some information. What's your address? So I get their address if I don't have it, but usually I have it and I still ask what their address is. One, because I don't want to sound like I already know everything about them, but two, I want to verify that I have their information correct.
Got it.
And then if I still don't have their information, I do skip trace it. So I'll use white pages so like, for instance, one of the people in my farm, some neighbor called me and said, actually two different deals that I'm in right now. One neighbor called me down the street and said, hey, this house is empty and they're probably going to sell. You may want to contact them. So I tried door knocking them, but I couldn't get a hold of them. So I skip traced them and found the sister. And I called them. They weren't ready yet. And then they called. And then I mailed them my information and emailed them my information. And then eventually I took their listing. There was another one, same situation. Somebody else passed away. Nobody lived there. So I ended up skip tracing them and they got their information that way.
Got it. I do see what you're saying here, and it does make a complete sense here. The main thing is you have their information, you have their address, but you still call them, right? You absolutely still do. And what kind of criteria would you give for these person to qualify in your farm, your database? Or do they tell you I want to sell, or you need to get a certain price, or like?
So anybody in my farm, I will put into my database, just because I do so much in my farm that even if they're not ready right now, eventually my hope is that they're going to be ready. And when they are ready, they think of me. So even when I'm calling absentee owners and I notice that so I call general, all of Tustin absentee owners. I don't just call my farm, but I know the streets well enough where I can tell if they're in my farm. So when I call them, and I'm calling just absentee owners as a whole, if I see that they're in the farm, then I start telling them while I'm on the phone with them, oh, I actually just sold your neighbor's house or whatever. And then start creating that credibility. And then I say, I keep a lot of the neighbors up to date with sales activity and what's going on in the neighborhood. I'd love to be able to help you and keep you up to date so you know how their sales affects your home value. And then I add their information. And then I keep them up to date with the regular call every couple of months.
Got it. So they don't need to tell you they're interested in selling. You will still do the same thing for them.
Not for an absentee owner. Yeah, no, I'll just put them in because I feel like absentee owners at some point are going to want to sell and they don't know who because they don't live there. So it'll be easy.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jennifer.
Hey, good. Good question, Michael. Thank you. All right, other questions for Jennifer?
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
Just wondering, I know you have small kids, but how do you balance doing so many deals and then still, you know, be a mom? Like, do you work like weekdays or you off weekends? What is your schedule like? And how do you balance that? If it's, I know it's not, you know, it's hard, but like how do you do it?
Okay, so I wake up a little bit later. I know Neil had a question about when people wake up. Lately, I have not been waking up at that time. But like I help the kids with breakfast. My husband does a lot. So my husband works from home anyways. And so now it's been an adjustment of him and I both working in the same office and trying to call and prospect together when I'm sitting right next to him and then he's also on the phone. So that's kind of been an adjustment. But as far as the mom side, like the kids are 7, 5, and 3. So I hate to admit it, but they've been doing a lot of just independent play for the last, like, since summer started. And then I go down and check on them, or if nobody's screaming and crying, then I figure they're okay.
And there's no blood.
Yeah. And then if there is something wrong, they just come knocking on the door crying. And then whenever it's like lunchtime, my husband will do it or I'll do it. We take turns. And so like, it's just been a balance of keeping them occupied and working in the office and trying to block that out. And then as far like, I could be better as far as like not checking my phone and stuff like that. But when I'm with them, like we're going for a walk or something, I'm still usually checking my phone or responding to an email. I still do work weekends, but I try not to work Sundays unless it's like a listing presentation and I can't get out of it. But it's kind of like Neil says, it's not as good because I'm not necessarily always present and I want to be more present with the kids when I'm with the kids. And then with work,
Well,
I mean, they're knocking on the door. So
you do a
So
terrific
kind of
job. You really do.
trying.
You're quite a model. You're a model. It's a great question, Nancy, because you're quite a model for getting things done with you know, a lot of responsibility. So at a high level, at a really high level. That's really why, in large part, why I wanted to kind of get you together with the group today is to share that, to kind of see the different things and the different options, and that the system does work, and this is how it goes together. So good stuff. Great question, Nancy. absolutely. Other questions?
I have a question. This is Monica.
Go ahead, Monica.
Jennifer, can you repeat once again, I'm sorry, what you tell the seller when you call, not the seller, but your farm, when you want to let them know about recent activity? What is your script?
So I say, hi, this is Jennifer with Century 21. I do a lot of work here in Tustin Meadows. So like you're saying, if I know that they know who I am or they don't know who I am? Like I'm calling absentee owners?
No, I guess they don't. I don't know if they know who you are or not, but you said something, I logged in when you were saying, when you're letting them know to keep them abreast of the value that happened, to let them know to tell them about the neighbor.
Okay, so when I'm calling absentee owners and I notice that the address that they own is within my community, then what I say is, oh yeah, you know what? I actually just sold your neighbor's house on Hampshire. We had multiple offers and we went for 10,000 over asking. You know, I keep a lot of the neighbors up to date with the sales activity and the prices. And I understand you're not interested in selling right now, but a lot of the neighbors like to know what's going on in the community and how those sales affect their home prices. What I can do is keep you up to date as well. And then they usually say, oh, okay. And then I say, what's your email address? Is this number that I'm calling you on, is this your home phone or your cell phone? They say home phone, because usually the numbers that I'm calling are home phone. And then I say, oh, okay, what's your cell phone? Just in case. And then they give it to me. And then I'll say, okay, and I'll mail you my card as well. And again, the platform that I have, I already have their address, but I don't want them to know that like I'm creepy. Yeah. So I say, what's your address? And then they'll tell me their address. And then I say, okay, well, you know, I'll send you my card. If you ever have any questions, let me know. And I'll keep you up to date with sales activity in the area. And again, if you ever know of anybody that's looking to sell any of the neighbors or anything, let me know, because I help a lot of the neighbors out.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
All right.
Jennifer.
Good. Great question, Monica. Thank you. Thanks, Jennifer. Other questions for Jennifer? I'm going to wind down here.
Who is your coach, Jennifer?
Neil Schwartz.
Oh.
I have a question for Jen.
No wonder.
I like that. Ask that again, Avon. No, go ahead. Sorry, Tess. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you that too.
I didn't catch that. So with, hi Jen, how are
Hello.
you? Good, nice to see you.
I know you too.
So tell me again, the percentage from the door knocking with what you're doing. What was the percentage of your business again on that? I didn't catch that.
I don't have an exact percentage. Like of the people that I door knock, I will put them into my COI, and of the transactions that I close in a given year, about 1/3 of those are people that I had talked to or door knocked or called or were in my COI that I have been like nursing. So it's not like immediate business, but people that I just continually touch over the year that eventually turn into something.
So if I understand you correctly, this was the people from your farming, and then you created a relationship. So now they're on the COI.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Got it. Perfect. Good. Excellent. Wow. That was Jennifer. Awesome. Very, very good. Time very well spent. Everybody unmute yourself. Give her a big hand. Woohoo! All right. Good job. Fabulous job. Thank you so much. And thank your husband for me, because I know he's around the background someplace feeding the children.
Yeah.